Hey, Coach Dave here. There are really four key components that every athlete is measured by and what they have to excel at. Number one, commitment. Number two is competence, their ability to learn, retain information, so on. Number three is focus. And number four is toughness, both physically and mentally. So let's go through those things. And if an athlete is missing either any of those four components, that's really where we start to see cracks building when it comes to the ability that they're not able to live up to their potential in their sport. And we start to see some of the foundation kind of breaking down, if you will, if we don't have all of those key elements in place to be a successful athlete. So let's look at these individually, right? So number one would be commitment. Low commitment would be things like when things get a little hard, they want to step away and quit. They don't want to put in the extra work. They don't want to do the extra things to get necessarily better or prepared. So that commitment level, when it is low, it is very hard, if not impossible, to be a really successful athlete. There are a lot of times in a lot of the clinics that I've been at where I get asked a lot of times, or I see coaches get asked a lot of times of how much longer do we have? When is this going to be over? Those are low commitment type of things. Those are low commitment comments and a low commitment kind of mindset that you are not wanting to do the extra things, that you're just kind of looking to get through it and get over it. That is a key element of having a low commitment and makes it very difficult for athletes, especially young athletes, to be successful in the long run when their commitment level is a little bit low. Number two is competence, right? They never believe that they're good enough. They never gain an understanding because of that. And they just don't have the kind of confidence and the kind of self-belief that they need to have. So they feel before they even get out there that they're not good enough, that they're going to fail at what they do. They have a lot of negative self-talk that drags them down. So that competence level really struggles because they just don't feel they fit in. They're comparing themselves to others all the time. And they usually are comparing themselves to others that may not be in position, may not be the same athlete, may not have the same circumstances. But that kind of comparison is absolutely detrimental to the self-belief piece, because really the only person you should ever compete against, especially as a young athlete, is yourself. That should be your number one driver. It's always getting better than you were yesterday. But young athletes have a tendency to watch a lot of social media or their peers, see what they're doing, how they're performing. They start to compare themselves to those situations. And then that really digs in and rips away some of the self-belief they have. And it basically kind of puts this mentality that they're just not good enough. And so they come in with a lack of confidence, a lack of belief, and it definitely will show up in performance. It will show up in workouts, and it will especially show up in games when adversity hits, right? Number three is low focus. To be a successful athlete, you cannot have low focus. With several of my clients on the mindset, we do what's called a concentration grid, which is specifically built to keep someone focused for an extended period of time, not to be distracted, to weed out distractions. You see, when athletes have low focus, they really crumble under pressure. They are not able to dial in and get in that moment. And part of being a successful athlete is really being able to soak into the present moment, to really be able to focus 100% right where your feet are. And what you see a lot, especially with young athletes, is their focus starts to drift. They start to kind of wonder what's going on around them. Who's in the stands? Is their coach going to be mad? Is their mom or dad going to be mad? What's going to happen if they fail? And they start thinking about things that are out of their control. And that's a huge part of focus. When athletes start to grip onto something that they can't control. I always use the term control the controllables, right? You can't control the shot. You can't control who's sitting in the stands, how someone's going to react. But what athletes can control is the ability for them to focus right where their mind is at that time, right where their feet are. And that is the ability to just niche it down so narrow that they're able to focus in those moments. The pressure moments don't really matter to them at all because they are just so dialed in and they're kind of in that flow state, so to say. The fourth thing that athletes are measured on is toughness. And when they have low toughness, they just break when the game is on the line. When there's a big play, when there's a big moment in their sport, they just break and can't handle it. Their toughness mentally is not there. They don't want to be in that moment. You see a lot of athletes, especially young athletes, that aren't comfortable taking the last shot or making the big play or whatever it may be. They're just not, that's not in their comfort zone, right? And the thing a lot of people don't realize is these are trainable skills. Being uncomfortable in a big moment is not a skill that is learned. It's a perception that young athletes have gathered at some point that has caused them to have this fear or this lack of mental toughness. And that is a trainable, a learned skill that can be developed and improved upon drastically. So they are there for the big moments. So they are there for when it matters most. And realizing that the mental toughness piece keeps them locked into the game, locked into those big moments. That is a huge element to being a successful athlete and having your young athletes' full potential met. So again, those four key elements that athletes are measured on, right? You've got commitment, you've got your competence, you've got your focus, and you've got your toughness. Okay, those are the things that really measure an athlete. How good can they be when you look at those four elements, both in the future and right now? And can those four elements be improved on? Absolutely, all the time. Simple training of the mind, just like you train your body, right? You can really get those things improved upon and really improve your chances of reaching the absolute potential as an athlete that a young person, middle school, high school, even college level. This is several stuff I work on with pros as well, um, to put these elements in and get them as strong as possible. You can't just be good at one or two of these elements. You can't just have, dialed in focus and a hard level of commitment and expect to get to where you need to be to reach the heights that you can be, right? So if you don't have the kind of competence, where you're feeling at times you're not good enough, maybe you lack the kind of mental toughness to be the one that wants to step up to challenges, that wants to overcome adversity. You only have two out of those four. You're not going to reach it. You're not going to get to where you need to be. Other athletes out there, the greatest of the greats, the ones that get to the highest level, they become all state type players, they become all Americans. They have all four of these. They have these four elements dialed in. They train them, they focus on them, and they know what it takes. So they have the commitment, the focus, the competence, the toughness. They have those dialed in, and they sacrifice absolutely nothing to make sure that those stay dialed in all the time. Okay. A kid that looks confident, that may kind of secretly score low on the competence part is really obvious out there. You can almost see, we've all seen athletes that come and they've got a little extra pep in their step, and in warm-ups or whatever it be, or when they make a play. But when the lights really shine bright, when things are really starting to matter, you'll notice they kind of hide. They're not as confident. They kind of go into the background a little bit. And so it becomes really obvious when one of those four things is lacking with an athlete. So, same thing with like the hardest worker. Okay. You might have the hardest worker in the gym or out on the field, just seeing somebody that works hard all the time. However, they may be low in the toughness part. So again, when things matter, they basically become blind. They don't have the ability to narrow in and focus on the present moment for that level of toughness and really have an understanding when it comes to the mental toughness that no matter what may happen, no matter good or bad end result, that level of toughness, if they come up on the wrong side of it and say miss the big shot, they use that as an opportunity to learn and to get better and to implement that into their game and into their persona, right? Versus, and also if they make that game-winning shot, that toughness is already there to take it, and it even strengthens that further. It even strengthens that mental toughness further when they do come up in that moment because they've prepared for it, they understand it, and they're ready. The key difference on that toughness part is the fact that if they do miss that shot, they will take it again the next day because they will reflect on the fact of what did I learn from this moment? Not I failed, not I'm a failure, not it should affect my belief, but what did I learn? How do I implement what I've learned so next time I'm ready to make that big shot when it counts? So again, let's recap our conversation today. The four things that most athletes are always measured on, right? You've got commitment, you've got the competence, you've got your focus, and you've got your toughness. Four pretty simple elements. That's it. They're all trainable skills, right? You can get a lot tougher mentally. That's a very trainable skill. Confidence isn't born. You're not born with confidence. You're built. Confidence is built, not born with. Okay. Focus. Focus is something, there are tons of tools out there to stay dialed into the present moment. All great things happen in the present moment. You can't control the past, you can't control the future. You've got to be focused right where your feet are to be a successful athlete. Okay? The competence piece of just believing in yourself, having the confidence that you have prepared and you've put in the work to be successful is a huge piece. And obviously the commitment piece. Now, all good and great athletes are committed. That's just simple kind of number one. And if there's any lack of progress, if there's any struggle with the commitment piece, there's some tools to change the athlete's mindset when it comes to that commitment. And lots of times what you find with that word commitment is like they're not having fun anymore. They're oftentimes seeing it as a job, especially young athletes. Like there's this pressure on them they don't like. And there's some tools to kind of, basically retrain that thought process to change the perspective a little bit in how you approach your level of commitment and what it is with that athlete's level that is causing that. And again, maybe it's fun, maybe it's not liking a team, a coach, whatever it may be, but there's tools in place to help that commitment level improve. So again, these are the four elements that really are important for a young athlete to reach their full potential. And they are measured and they are clear as day if any one of these four is lacking. Continue to work on these four. Continue to push forward and improve on the commitment, the competence, the focus, the toughness. Continue to dive in and learn and train your mind on these things, which will immediately translate into your body and your performance out there on your field of